The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, your weekly update on all the Borders clubs, including the East League teams from the area. Robin Purdie's joined me again, and as there were no matches last week in the league due to the Scotland-Fiji International, there's nothing much to talk about, but we must give a mention to Berwick, of course, the only local team to have a match. It was in the National League Cup. They were at home to Stumel. They'd already beaten Preston Lodge, so in their mini pool, Berwick finished on top of the table of the three teams, and they now progress to the knockout stages of the competition with a 36-33 win, which means they're on a winning hat-trick tomorrow.
Yeah, and they play Kirkcaldy tomorrow, and it's a winnable one at home, absolutely. That's a great win for them last weekend in that cup competition. I believe that sees them through to the knockout stages, so fair play. That's a couple of good wins in what, to my mind, looks like a fairly tough pool, and they've come through that. So yeah, good win, last ditch stuff, I believe, as well. So good character there as well.
There was an interesting end to that game as well, because it was pretty even towards the end. There was 5 minutes to go. Then one of their wingers, I think, went down the line. Great tackle by Aidan Rosie into touch. It was a hard tackle, but it looked a pretty good tackle from the views that we saw. And it was given as a penalty try and a yellow card. So all of a sudden, Stumel went in front. And in the last play of the game, Berwick managed to win it back, hence the high-scoring 36-33 win. But again, it comes back to these tackles which are being interpreted differently by certain referees.
Oh yes, Stuart, for my money, that's one of the best cover tackles, try-saving tackles I think I've ever seen. Without hyperbole, I think that's one of the best I've ever seen. Fair, came from miles away, bundled him into touch in the corner. An utterly farcical decision, and I'm not wanting to go down that road again, but that's the worst I've seen in the many ridiculous penalty stroke yellows I've seen in recent weeks. That's the worst.
But it's quite interesting, actually, because we have a referee tomorrow in the summarising box, along with Dale Clancy, at the Berwick-Kirkcaldy game. And, of course, Paul Pringle was involved in that incident as well as head coach of Berwick. And, of course, he's made his point clear several occasions. That'll be very interesting. I'm sure after the game they'll both be able to have a little chat and also give us the referee's perspective, because let's make it clear, we're not having a go at the referees.
Absolutely not.
We're having a go at the interpretation of the laws and what it's actually doing to the game at the moment, which, to be frank, in some cases is causing real issues.
Oh yeah, it's causing serious issues, and to re-emphasise what you said there, that is not on the referees. The referees are having to fight with one hand tied behind their back and blindfolded at the moment. It's a farcical situation, and yeah, I have great sympathy for the referees at the moment.
Well, I mentioned the Scotland-Fiji game. It would be wrong of us not to mention the Borders' contribution to that 57-17 result. Darcy Graham getting 4 tries to go past Stuart Hogg's total. He's now on 28 for his country. Duan van der Merwe, of course, one in front of him. He got a late try, made it 29, but what a great battle going on there between those two.
Oh, brilliant. Van der Merwe almost looked a wee bit miffed, dare I say, to have lost it temporarily, or at least gone level temporarily. But Darcy Graham, what a player, what an absolute player, and let's not forget how long he was out as well. He's come back almost to the manner born. And yeah, some people say Fiji, and let's be honest, they didn't have their France-based superstars, but still a very, very decent outfit full of Super Rugby players from the Fijian Drua, and that's a really good start to the campaign for Scotland. Really good start to the campaign for the Borders lads, but brilliant start for Scotland.
Rory Sutherland, of course, coming off the bench, get another cap for him, and good to see him still in the mix as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. He's not had his problems to seek for one reason or another, big Rory, but yeah, great to see him back, absolutely, and he looks like he's got a bit of sort of settled with the club, obviously at Glasgow now as well.
Darcy, of course, out for the game against South Africa, which he'll be gutted for. That was a HIA.
Yeah, real blow.
But hopefully back for Portugal and Australia.
Yeah, it would have been good to see him go up against the world champions, but these are the protocols, and rightly so. But yeah, that's a real shame. If we're going to do something against a team like South Africa, we need to have everybody, all our best boys, fit and firing. The Grahams, the Van der Merwes, the Finn Russells, etc. So that's a blow.
Let's not forget John Dalziel, of course, in the backroom staff. He's involved as well and has been for a while. But, of course, Gregor Townsend, who I think is, if I've read it rightly in the offside line, is now become the most successful Scotland coach of all time.
Yeah, I think he's got the highest win percentage, Gregor. And he's had some big wins as well. You know, I think he done the French hoodoo away from home, the Welsh hoodoo away from home, several victories against England now. So the next thing I'm guessing he would dearly love is to kick on and win a bit of silverware. Which is most likely to be a Six Nations under our belts, and I think Gregor would dearly love that. But yeah, he's a long-standing coach. He's got the highest win rate, and fair play to him. Let's not forget about where we are essentially small nation, tiny playing pool. We need to, like it or lump it, go get players from elsewhere and make them citizens essentially. And that's not easy. There's not the same coming through the system as there is in Ireland, and Ireland got their ducks in a row much earlier than us, and so let's also not forget that under Gregor's stewardship we've probably had some of the best results and some of the best teams and played some of the best rugby, certainly in my living memory, and with some of the best players.
So we have the World Champions on Sunday, 4:10 kick-off, South Africa. And of course, I've seen a couple of Scottish wins over South Africa, and you've got a group of youngsters here who really believe in themselves. I don't think they're going to be phased. No,
you'd like to think not. I mean, they're representing their country, they're pulling on the jersey at the end of the day, and it's 15 human beings against 15 at the end of the day. But let's not beat about the bush. This is an exceptional team led by an exceptional coach, in terms of what he does. They're behemoths, they're super tough, but they can play a bit of rugby as well. They kick their goals. They're just a complete team at the moment, and they're going to take an awful lot of beating on Sunday.
Well, we had no rugby last week, so let's refresh our memory and look at the three league tables in the Premiership, National 1 and National 2, where there's borders interest, and we'll start with the Premiership. We've got Ayr at the top, played 9, won 9, 45 points. Can't do any better than that. Heriots in second with 40, Watsonians 34. Then there's a big gap of 7 to Currie in fourth place. They have that playoff position. Melrose fifth with 26. Hawick sixth on 24. Glasgow Hawks also have 24 in seventh. Selkirk now down to 8th with 23, following 3 straight defeats against some big teams. Embrackey's in 9th place, 21. And then another big gap of 8 points to the relegation zone. Mar on 13, Kelso 10 and Musselburgh 7.
Yes, it's taking shape. I think we're 2 games away now from the turn, Stuart, and yeah, I've seen it written somewhere this week that it's now 3 leagues of 3. It's the top 3, it's the middle 6, and it's the bottom 3 now. Whether I or not I agree with that, it doesn't really matter. But at the moment, that's kind of how it stands. There's a bit of a battle going on for that 4th place, and I suppose there's a battle of sorts going on for the two home semi-finals. I see that being Ayr and Heriots come the end of the season. I see Currie pipping Melrose for 4th. But I think Melrose have done magnificently so far this season, and they've got firepower to come back. Let's not forget, particularly in the forwards. So they're in a really good place at the moment. And Hawick again will have designs, another team that will have designs on that 4th place spot. Below that, Glasgow Hawks, Selkirk, and the Ackies, as quick as they can get to, not necessarily mathematical safety, but in all reality safety, they'll be happy enough. They can relax and then play a bit of rugby. And for Mar, unfortunately, Kelso and Musselburgh doesn't look great at the moment.
It doesn't, does it? 8-point gap there between Embrackey's and Mar. And of course, tomorrow that gap could widen even more. We'll look at that very, very shortly. But National 1, GHA at the top with 43 points. They're still unbeaten, of course, as well, although they have dropped some try bonuses, a couple, one of which was against Peebles. Stirling County in second place with 41, just that one loss at GHA, so we're still eagerly anticipating that big match at Bridge Hall between Stirling County and GHA. We shall be there for that one. Glasgow Ackies in third place, pretty clear now, 9 points off Stirling, but also 6 points ahead of Gala, who nip into 4th position after their good result, even though it wasn't a win against Stirling County. But my goodness, they almost got a draw at the end. It ended 38-36 last time out. So Gala go above Biggar on 24, Jed Forest 23, Peebles 20, Highland 18, Boroughmuir 15 and Dundee 10, and that's another league where 3 go down. At the moment, that's certainly not cut adrift. Highland making some progress, just 2 behind Peebles now. Boroughmuir also picking up the points, 15, and even Dundee, of course, with that win against Peebles, plus their 6 bonus points, are in contention, but they're going to have to back that win up with more victories in the coming weeks. So National 1, your take on that?
Yeah, it's looking now on the back of Glasgow Accies' shock defeat at Riverside a couple of weeks ago. It is now looking as we've thought it might, and we've mentioned a few times, like a playoff, a league deciding playoff potentially. Still a bit of rugby we played, of course, between Stirling and GHA at Bridgehaugh later in the month, or early December I think it is. So yeah, as you say, we're looking forward to that. So yeah, those are the top 2, and those are going to remain the top 2. Gala going great guns in 4th. I was at that game against Stirling. I was so impressed by them because they really were under the cosh, 24-0 down. Stirling absolutely cruising. And then Gala just got back into it, not led as in the sense he was the captain, but the one-man wrecking ball that was Sam Smith. He was everywhere.
He's impressive, isn't he? Everyone's talking about him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player. I thought that when I seen him play, and I think it was in a Shield final, under-18 Shield final that we went to, Gala v Melrose a couple of years ago. Played in that, and I thought at the time, Gala look like they've got a player here. Given the context of the game and who they were playing, it's good an individual performances, I think, as I've seen for a long time. But they just fell up short. But that's a victory for me. 2 points against Stirling, absolutely. And Jed with a unbelievable comeback victory against Glasgow Accies propelled them up the table a wee bit. But my word, they needed it. Given what's happening, what's bubbling away now below, and Jed and Peebles still got plenty to think about for the remainder of the season.
They certainly have. What's interesting now about National 1 is that we've seen Peebles go to Braidholme and almost create a shock and beat GHA. We've seen Gala nearly turn over Stirling County. All of a sudden, these other clubs are going to look at that and say, it can be done.
Yeah, but what it also does as well is it gives the GHAs and the Stirlings the wee bit of a wake-up call that they potentially need to think, well, we're not going to go through the season and have it absolutely all our own way. It was interesting in that Stirling game when they were really under the cosh into the second half. Much of the turnaround was by a couple of bits of brilliance from their most experienced player, Glenn Bryce. 2 bits of absolute class. They scored 2 tries in 2 minutes, largely down to him, and that's what tipped it in their favour at the end of the day. So these teams have got the players that can turn it on at the right time. But yeah, it's an interesting division again, top and bottom, because there's, like I say, almost a playoff situation at the top, but the bottom's where it's at.
National 2, very competitive. Gordonians at the top now with 29. They've won 6 of their 7 matches. Stuart's Melville in second place, 27. Bit of a gap now, 6 points to third place Falkirk. Kirkcaldy also on 21 along with Falkirk. Then GHK on 18, Lasswade 17, Berwick 16, Preston Lodge 14 and Newton Stewart 12. Very, very close. And even Newton Stewart at the bottom, they've only won 1, but they've got 4 try bonuses and crucially 4 losing bonus points, which shows you that those could easily have been wins.
Yeah, this division's really tight. Falkirk could still get back into it towards the top. Kirkcaldy are there or thereabouts. You probably would have got long odds in the top 2 at this stage, being Gordonians and Stumel. I would have thought Falkirk would be right up there. I would have said Newton Stewart propping up the table would have been right towards the top. And it looks like it's one of those where anyone can beat anyone home and away, not just at home.
Well, let's have a look at tomorrow's fixtures then. Weather looking reasonable again, so not expecting any weather-related call-offs, but it's staggered kick-offs now for the clubs without lights, so they'll kick off at 2 o'clock. The clubs with lights will stay at 3 o'clock. We're extending the show to start at 1:30, so the next few months, whilst the clocks are where they are, we'll be starting at 1:30 instead of 2:30, and we go on till 5:30 as usual, so you get an extra hour out of us, which means we can cover Berwick v Kirkcaldy as a commentary match tomorrow, and also the second half of Melrose against Embrackes. That will feature in commentary too. Let's look at the 2 o'clock kickoffs first in the Premiership. Glasgow Hawks versus Currie. Hawks back at Ballgrey. Currie coming off the back of some really good results.
Oh, definitely Currie have got their act together massively after their 3-loss start to the campaign. And Glasgow Hawks been a wee bit of a surprise package. They've went better than many people, myself included, would have expected. Catapulted themselves almost more into people's thinking with an away draw at Mar earlier in the season, which was a good result. And yeah, it's not an easy game this for Currie going through there, but I do see them emerging, Stuart. They are in red hot form at the moment. They leak a few. They leaked a few against Selkirk, but yeah, I can see them coming out the right side of a tough encounter through there tomorrow.
Mar versus Musselburgh, two teams in desperate trouble. 10th for Mar, 12th for Musselburgh. Still not at the halfway stage yet in the league, but this is huge for both of them.
Oh, monumental for both of them. Musselburgh need to pick up wins and quick, and not just home wins. So, this is a relegation battle, and Musselburgh need to win this. It's as simple as that if they've got any designs in staying up. But you could say the same about Mar. If Mar are going to get themselves out of this, then they need to pick up wins. Well, where do you start with a win? Right, we've got the team at the bottom, one of our relegation rivals, at home tomorrow. So yeah, my word, if Mar don't win this tomorrow, Stuart, then they're in all kinds of trouble, and it's not quite good night Vienna stage, but they are in deep stuff.
Okay, Ayr against Hawick. Ayr with 9 out of 9 wins, 45 out of 45 points. Hawick with a free hit at Millbrae. Let's see what Hawick head coach Graham Hogg is saying ahead of this one.
It was really good to give the boys a week off last week after what's been obviously a pretty difficult start to the season. It was good to refresh the bodies, refresh the minds, especially after an excellent win against Kelso the week before, scoring 8 tries. We were really happy with how we went that day, especially when there was obviously a bit of pressure in that type of border derby. This week doesn't get any easier. Huge challenge for the boys heading up to Ayr. We know Ayr have obviously been perfect this season, 9 wins from 9. We know that our physicality needs to probably be at a level, especially up front, that we haven't seen this year yet. And that's certainly something that we've been speaking to the boys about over the last few training sessions. As I say, it's really key, we spoke about as well in terms of making sure we keep the ball. As I say, our ball retention is beginning to get better and better, and that's certainly something that we're going to need to get some form of result this weekend up in the west of Scotland. Selection-wise, we've got a full squad to pick from. Also, Hector Patterson comes in from the academy setup. He'll be on the bench behind Logan Henry. But yeah, apart from that, we've got a full squad to pick from.
So nothing to lose for them, and some very good news that he's got a full squad to pick from.
Oh, great news. There's been teams that have not gone to Ayr potentially with a full squad for one season or another, so it's great to see Hawick throwing everything at it, and Hector Patterson coming back as well. We've seen what he can do coming off the bench so far this season, i.e. a hat-trick against whoever it was. So yeah, Hawick, as you say, absolute free hit, but if there's one team that can go down there and get stuck in, it's Hawick, and I think it'll be a great occasion down there. I do see Ayr coming out the right side of it, and I do see them maintaining their perfect start to the season with 5 points, but as I've said all season, if Hawick can come away with 1 point from that, even they've won a watch.
And we're certainly getting closer now, ever closer, 2 weeks away from that big match at Golden Acre in a couple of weeks' time. Heriots versus Ayr. We
don't want to say too much about going through the whole campaign at this stage where we're a perfect record of bonus point wins every week, but if they can see off Hawick and then they can go to Golden Acre and come away with 5 points, then it's on.
Certainly is. Now, Kelso will be playing Heriots tomorrow. Kelso will have been glad of the 2-week break to try and get some of those injured Warriors back on the pitch. Let's see if Kelso Director of Rugby Neil Hinnigan can bring some better news to the table.
After a week off, which was badly needed with some of the sore bodies, the sort of mental strain it had taken on us over the last few weeks with players absent and losing as many matches as we have lately, so it's been a welcome break and a bit of refreshment for the players to start again. We have a few people back from injury. Dan Gamble is back from suspension. Grant Shields returns from his holiday. Keith Melbourne may be okay as well, maybe faces a late fitness test, but hopefully be okay. They mainly all take their place on the bench due to players that have been training and putting their hand up at the moment anyways, so the bench will probably be slightly stronger as normal due to this, which will obviously help with the depth. We are still missing Andy Tate, Liam Tate, of course Harry Borthwick is still missing as well, but Dwayne Patterson is now also out injured. Even though we've not had a game, Dwayne's picked up a tweak in his groin, so he could be out for 2-3 weeks as well. Obviously that'll be an issue for goal kicking and so on as well, so there's a little bit to think about coming out of this week, but one thing we really need to get back to is doing basics as well as we can, especially defence. Up at Hawick we really let ourselves down with a mixture of desire and technique around the defensive structure, and we gave Hawick it fairly easy. Up until that match, I feel all season we've pretty much given everybody a real game, even if the result hasn't went our way, but against Hawick we're never really in it from minute 1 to the end, and that was the most disappointing thing about that. So this week we try and get back to doing those things well again and keeping in the fight for as long as we can. If we're in the game in the last 20 minutes, who knows? We can win the game from that point, but if we're out of it in the first 20, we've no chance. So it's about more about the mental edge as anything this week. But with one or two players there on the bench that can bolster the squad, hopefully the mood in the camp lifts a fair bit. And it's been a good week training, so it's one that we go into with a bit of confidence. Obviously, Heriots are a top side. They look a cut above everyone else, in all honesty. But they're there to be beaten, and they have lost one game this season, which was on the road. So you just never know.
Neil Hinnigan putting as much of a positive spin on it as he possibly can, but Dwayne Patterson is out.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Gamble back. Shields back. Great. Melbourne, brilliant back. But Patterson out, that's to take the wind out your sails, isn't it? And that's a blow to any team, Dwayne Patterson, a player of his quality. But in saying that, if he's going to miss any 2 weeks, Heriots at home, Curry away, there's more winnable games that you want him around for than those two, if that makes sense. So the timing might not be quite as bad as it might have been if they had the Selkirks and the Melrose to play.
Andrew Fleming will be there for us tomorrow. You'll be, of course, at the Green Yards for us with Matty Douglas covering Melrose against Embrackis. We'll discuss that in a second. Joint head coach of Melrose, though, is Scott White.
So returning home after 5 points at home and a week off, boys are fully recharged and refocused and ready to go, hopefully push upwards. This week brings huge selection headaches for us as coaches. A couple of the boys went down and played twos rugby for the last couple of weeks. Finlay Sinclair, probably most notably, and then Will Ferry and Will Owen both played last Saturday against Gala, just to top up their minutes and make sure that they're primed and ready to go. But in that same conversation, Dylan Coburn and Al Ferry, Scott Clark, are all returning from injury and all available for selection this week as well. So, we've got huge competition up front. Zen returned at Mar away, made a big impact off the bench, having been away for 3 weeks previous, and Ben White returns back in the squad this week, having been away with Edinburgh A down at Elam. So, look, competition for places is huge, something that we've kind of aspired to, and this is the first week that there's some real close calls in terms of what that squad looks like, which excites us as a group of coaches. And then hopefully we get that performance that boys are a wee bit uncomfortable in knowing that they've got the front up week in week out now to keep a hold of that jersey. So great session last night, 15v15 fully live for 15 minutes at the end of the session, so it was pretty tasty, and hopefully boys can build that momentum into which is ex-Players Day on Saturday. So given the jersey and showing obviously what the squad's capable of this year, we just need to be more consistent over the 80 minutes, and that's a performance that we're still looking for. But Aki's all proved difficult. They were down the Borders 2 weeks ago against Kelso and went away home with a bonus point win, and they weren't actually that far away from when they played Ayr at their last home game. So they've got threats across the pitch that we're aware of. We're looking for a huge home performance, which we've probably not delivered this year so far.
Scott White. Now, 2 weeks ago they got another win on the road at Mar, which put them in 5th place. I think that's their 5th win on the road, which is outstanding. But against Embrackis tomorrow, and they're getting close to that relegation zone. Another defeat will drag either of those clubs even closer to that relegation zone, especially as either Mar or Musselburgh are likely to pick up 4 points tomorrow.
Yeah, it depends what Aki's turn up, to be honest. If it's the Akis that turned up at Kelso, then there's a game on. If it's the Akis that turned up at Selkirk, then Melrose potentially romp home with it. Great stuff going on at Melrose at the moment, Stuart, and all credit to them. Brilliant away win again last time out. I think the most impressive thing that I heard about that game was they seen out about the last 6 minutes just by pummeling scrum after scrum, winning penalty after penalty after penalty for about 7 minutes. Then they kicked the ball out, which that's game management. So yeah, and the names you mentioned coming back in: Coburn, Super Rugby player; Al Ferry, that's who they've really been waiting on, to be honest. There's the star man for me, he's back. But Zen, Ben White, Scott Clark coming in, providing competition. You can almost sense the excitement in Scott White's voice. But there's good stuff going on off the pitch as well. They've been taking in big bar takings at their events so far this season. There's another one tomorrow. Scott, I don't know how he does it. I believe this week he was away doing a Q&A somewhere in Edinburgh with 70 odd businesses about Melrose Sevens. I mean, the man's going to run himself into the ground. Yeah, there's a good thing going on there, and it's transformed. It's completely transformed. I live in the town, and there's a different buzz about the place. There's a different buzz from the outside looking into the rugby club. And let's be honest, there've been times in recent seasons where it's looked like a wee bit of a basket case, but those days now appear to be gone. They've got their identity back, and most importantly, they're winning rugby matches, and they're going to continue to win rugby matches when more of these boys come in and get fit and firing. He's almost now got an embarrassment of riches up front, and some of those players were Division 2, National 1 players last year that have become Premiership operators now, and they've got strength and depth, serious strength and depth, particularly up front.
Well, in the other Premiership match, Selkirk will take on Watsonians. This could be hard to call because Selkirk have been scoring well against the likes of Heriots and Curry, but very leaky at the back still, while Watsonians put 73 points on Mar, but then struggled against Musselburgh. They went 19-0 down, I think, at home. So it's anyone's guess what's going to happen in this one. Let's hear from Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson.
For this week's game against Watson, we've just got one forced change, whereas Aaron McComb is out with concussion, so he's on the return to play process, which should see him miss this game, but okay for the next one against Musselburgh. So changes will be Callum Anderson will come into 10, fill that role with Ryan Cotterill moving to full back. So that's just the only change in the backs. Forwards pretty much remain the same. We've got 4 points over the last 3 games, but still we've got 3 defeats. I guess it's still important picking up these bonus points in every game, which is better than nothing because we put heaps of effort in. And we're just letting ourselves down on 2 or 3 occasions and letting scores in that shouldn't be getting in, or at least 2 of the games might have been different. Again, this week against Watson's top side, be going really well, but an opportunity at home just to really dig in deep. And if we get our defensive sets right, then look, we know we can score tries and hurt teams, and that's what we've been working on during the week. Just making sure we get the low top tackles in, compete, fill the field, and just apply as much pressure as we can onto the Watson's attack. So again, it's all about us taking control of the game from the start and applying as much pressure we can to Watson's and see what we get out of this game. We're really looking forward to it. We're desperate to beat a top side, and Watson's, that's what Watson's are. But we'll be putting 100% into it for the 80 minutes and hopefully come away with points again.
Really difficult, isn't it, to assess Watsonians. One week they beat Mar by 73 points. The next week they're like 19 points down at home to the bottom side, Musselburgh. Hard to analyse that.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's what will give Selkirk a bit of heart this weekend. Sesh is right, they've had some really tough fixtures, and I think they've done brilliantly well to pick up the bonus points that they've picked up across those games. So, you look at Selkirk and you look at some of the players they've got these days. I mean, you mentioned some of them there. Now McComb's out, that's a blow, but Anderson slots in at 10, and lo and behold, Cotterill comes back in. Proper players there. And of course in the forwards, that's where they've really stepped up. Corey Tate, Jack Fisher on form, 2 of the form forwards in the league. So got some good players there. And you look at the fact that Selkirk have got a 40-minute victory against Ayr this season, and Watsonians are a team that can go 19 points behind against Musselburgh. So on the face of it, there would appear to be some level of parity there, but it just depends how it all plays out tomorrow. But it's got the slight look of a banana skin, this one, as far as Watsonians are concerned, but also they've got some top operators, and they can blow anybody below Heriots and Ayr away, and they blew Heriots away for 40 odd minutes as well, let's not forget.
Ewan Welsh will be providing TV highlights for us tomorrow, while Alan Lorimer is taking care of business on Rugby Radio for us. Well, let's look at the 2 o'clock kickoffs in National 1. First, it's Dundee versus Glasgow Accies. Dundee getting their first win of the season against Peebles, which they've been threatening to do, of course, but shame it was against Peebles from a Borders perspective. But they're still at the bottom of the table against third place Glasgow Accies, who were stunned by Jed Forrest 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking rebound for Accies, but the other argument is that the stuffing may have gone out of their season after that loss. I mean, really, their slender promotion hopes have gone.
Yeah, and they were always slender. Let's be honest. But yeah, that's essentially their promotion race in a league where there's only one up. That's their promotion race run now. I think it'll be the former, Stuart. I think it'll be backlash, and I think Dundee could feel it. But Dundee, they've clearly improved in recent times, and they've got a victory now under their belt, and that could certainly instill confidence. But I see the Accies coming away with it.
GHA against Boroughmuir. Boroughmuir finding some form recently, but GHA at Braidholme is a serious challenge. Peebles have performed the best there, but Boroughmuir will need to up the ante for this one.
Oh yeah, tough assignment for Boroughmuir. This one, if we're looking at it and the old adage of the table not lying, then it's a very, very difficult game for them. And of course you fancy GHA, their home form's been incredible. Peebles done brilliantly well there, but they absolutely blew Stirling away, they blew Jed away, they blew Galloway at home, and so yeah, tough one for Boroughmuir. But Boroughmuir are going to shock somebody, I feel, somewhere along the line. But also, this is not one of the ones that they need to mark on the calendar. Boroughmuir need to concern themselves with the Highlands, the Peebles, the Jeds, the Biggers, the Gallas, etc. if they're going to get out there. Not quite as bad predicament that they are still in a wee bit.
Highland against Gala, two teams you just mentioned. Next up, they've got 3 o'clock kickoff, and let's hear from Gala Director of Rugby, Ewan Swinton.
Our game 2 weeks ago against Stirling County ended up as a 36-38 defeat, but if ever there was a defeat that you could take some real pluses out of, this was definitely it. We'll never celebrate defeat, but this game came with an awful lot of good points to look at and definitely to work on going forward. Stirling County were strong favourites. They warmed up looking like a professional team with 12 Stirling Wolves players in it. And our side was up against it with just the 2 Super 6 experienced players in our unit. The game started 24-0 to Stirling, and they were well worth it. But our guys really woke up. They had always intended to go hard at Stirling, and once they came to life, they certainly did that. Pulled it back to 24-12 at half-time, and then the first score in the second half was always going to be important, and we ended up getting the first 3 to pull out to 31-24. Stirling did what really good teams do and came back at us to lead 38-31, and we scored late on to have a chance to convert to draw the game, but we didn't quite manage that. So the result went against us on the back of 4 conversions versus 3 conversions, and that was it. However, the way that the guys played once that first half hour was passed was the real plus point. Some young lads who not huge amounts had been expected of really stepped up to the plate, delivered a really strong performance. Notable among these was young Cameron Bryden, who's only 18. He relished the physical challenge, and he scored a try in which he had to brush aside one of these professionals to cross the line, and he did so brilliantly. Our front row, Gav Fisher, who is coming on a tremendous game, really moving forward with his rugby at a real pace. Jack Easton and Kyle Scott all played well. They all played 80 minutes. And Kyle, I would say, found himself. He absolutely relished getting stuck into Stirling County and their professionals, and did really well. In the back row, our man of the match, Sam Smith, was everywhere. And Sam only came back to rugby about 3 weeks ago. He is really, really establishing himself as a 100%er. He's all action, and he's another kid who just loves it. He relishes the physicality, and he loves to get it stuck in. So he had a great game. Harris Rutherford in the backs played really well. And in general terms, we just took the game to Stirling in a way that was fantastic to watch. The physicality that the boys brought to bear against a professional team was tremendous, and even better than that, they absolutely relished every second of it. The boys were buoyant when they came off about their performance, disappointed in the result, but yeah, lots to take forward to Highland this weekend. On top of the good performance from a number of our backup squad and a young team, we have a number of our injured players returning this week. Ryan Montgomery will be back from illness. Angus Dunn has recovered from his leg break. Robbie Irvin should be available, and Glenn McCrum played for the seconds on Friday. He may have a reaction to that and may not make it on Saturday, but we're certainly hopeful. In the backs, Lachlan Johnson is available again, as is Murray Wilson. We have Callum Pate returning to the squad this weekend. Callum has been a real miss in terms of his fantastic defensive capabilities. He simply doesn't miss tackles. Having Callum back is a real boost to the side. We go up to Inverness, knowing that Inverness is a tremendous challenge. They've got a strong forward pack and backs who want to run on that artificial surface and will have a go at you. Adrian Muratoki at number 15 is one of these guys that Bill McLaren would have described as going around like a baggy up a bun. He's a great player, but the lads know about him, so they hopefully won't give him a lot of space. Can we win that game? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The boys should be expecting to win that game. The level of performance that they put in against Stirling will be enough to win that game. They need to go up there and believe in themselves in the way that the rest of us believe in them, and take it to Highland. And if they do that, then 5 points will be coming back down the road. We are not in any way disrespectful of Highland. They're a great club, a really good side who have had a difficult start to the season but are coming on now. I think that you've got to take your destiny into your own hands and control it, and this side are now capable of that. So confident of a good result. I expect the boys to win. We go up in good heart.
What a diplomat, eh? Ewan Swinton, Director of Rugby at Gala. We wouldn't have him any other way. But again, another club that has really benefited from this couple of weeks off.
You mentioned the names that are coming back into the fold for this week on top of, what was a brilliant, and I can't express that enough. I was so impressed by them against Stirling there. So yeah, they'll all of a sudden, a bit like Melrose, they've got all manner of strength and depth now as well. And is it an easy place to go, Highland? Of course it's not. It's a long old journey, leaving early tomorrow. But with the depth of squad that they appear to now have, and the level of the buoyant fettle that they should have after the Stirling game, they can go up there and they can absolutely win that game. Like I say, it won't be easy, but yeah, you mentioned some of the names. I mean, Harris Rutherford, he came on early. Somebody unfortunately got injured, and he's a class act, particularly at that level. He was outstanding. The prop, Gavin Fisher, I believe he was pulled in late, maybe even on the Saturday morning. Somebody went lame, and he came in, and he was absolutely mammoth. He played the full 80, as you said. The other two front rowers played the full 80. They were all over the place. You could see from the back of the stand they were absolutely in their element, these players, and yeah, they can go up there tomorrow full of heart.
Jed Forrest against Biggar. Here's another really intriguing tie. Two teams very close together in the table. It was a close match at Hartree Mill at the start of the season. Here's Jed head coach Stuart Johnson.
We should be going into this full of confidence after our second half performance against Glasgow Accies 2 weeks ago, where we put in our best 40-minute performance of the season so far with a 35-5 second half win, coming from behind 33-5 at half time. So, but we're under no illusions. Biggar they're a tough team. They beat us at the start of the season, and they're above us in the league. So it's all about us. We need to be, it's about our mindset going into this game. But if we can put that 40-minute performance from the game against Glasgow Accies into 60-70 minutes, then we should be coming out of this with a win. But as I say, we need to start well. Team-wise, we're very settled from that Glasgow Accies squad, which is good. Grant Paxton comes back in at loose head. Matthew Beaton comes onto the wing in place of Logan Kerr, who's unavailable this weekend. Gregor Law is back fit, so it's massive for us getting Gregor back fit, and he comes onto the bench, and hopefully he'll make the start to his season. So, but apart from that, as I say, it's a very settled team from Glasgow Accies and a very settled squad with only a couple of changes into the 20. So not looking forward to being back at home, and hopefully we can put two results back to back for the first time this season as well. So looking forward to it.
Well, he couldn't believe his eyes 2 weeks ago when Jed came back from 33-5 down at half time to win 40-38. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Oh, it's Jed. Who knows? They could run up a cricket score, or they could get cricket scored themselves. But no, I'm delighted for Stuart because he spoke so honestly and candidly recently at Peebles when they were turned over pretty easily, to be honest. But what a riposte against a Glasgow Accies team that we thought would win at Riverside, let's be honest about it. So he's right, they can go into that tomorrow with great confidence, great heart. It's a game that Jed could do with winning, because not only will it take them above Biggar in the table, but in the second half of the season Jed have to go to Dundee, they have to go to Boroughmuir, and they have to go to Highland. Jed are not out the woods yet, so a win tomorrow would do absolutely no harm at all. Great to hear Gregor Law's back, an absolute Premiership level second row, and if they can get him fit and firing and slot him in with Big Skelly in the middle row, then that's going to be a match for anybody in that division.
The other game in National 1 is Peebles at home to Stirling County. Dundee went 90-0 up at Bridge Hall 2 weeks ago. Peebles almost shocked GHA. So the big dogs in the race can be hurt, as we mentioned earlier in the programme. But Peebles were hurt last time out with a loss at Dundee. Let's get the thoughts of Peebles boss Graham Patterson.
Yeah, it seems a long time ago since our last game now against Dundee, which was clearly a very disappointing result. I thought we had some good impacts from the bench in that game, particularly up front. William Napier and Rue Smith came on and really did add value to the set piece. That's a theme that we're trying to work on, is making impacts off the bench, and others have done that as well. Archie Winnington Ingram, who made his debut off the bench, again he impacted well. So I think that's an important thing, that we can do that and have that strong bench, and that's something that will need to really be key and in our minds going into the second half of the season, and games that are going to be absolutely crucial to how the league pans out. And it's about playing those 80-minute games and not 40, 50, even 60 minutes. And it showed. Dundee are still at the bottom of the table. However, if you're not completely on it for 80 minutes, then you will lose a game against any team in this league, and that's the reality of it, and that's what we've come to learn over this first half of the season, and hopefully we will learn and we will adjust and get those differences in the results over the second period of the league. We've had a really good 2 weeks of training, a bit lighter hearted in that first week, but then built it up as we look to take on Stirling County this weekend down at the Gates, and we need to create some chaos for them. Really harass and challenge them, and having a look at some of the videos, and in particularly the Gala game, that's certainly what Gala did. I felt they really did challenge them in terms of the tempo that they played at, how they challenged them physically, and relentless attacks around the corner, spreading it wide, and I thought they really did knock Stirling on a number of occasions, and came within a hair's breadth of drawing that game with the last conversion there. So we can take heart from that and say that, well, we can replicate that kind of situation and hopefully even go one better than Gala did and get that win. Squad-wise, we're still missing a couple. Ewan Murray's still missing from his injury against Jed, and Kel McKeever picked up that dislocated shoulder early doors against Dundee, so still missing those two guys. But hopefully we'll see a return from them before the end of the season. But others are stepping up. Cammy Pye features in the squad for this week against Stirling for the first time this season after returning from Australia earlier on, which is great to see Cammy back, and he's going to add a fair bit of physicality and impact as well up front. Otherwise, we're pretty settled. Same starting front five, with Robert Harrison starting in the back row in place of the injured Kel McKeever. And then the backs are as selected previously, except for Davy Collins dropped out just before the game against Dundee. He's back in, and Neil Pate drops out. And bench-wise, we'll have William Napier, Rue Smith, Cammy Pye and Archie Winnington Ingram, along with Max McKeever as the back sub on the bench as well. So we believe that we can go out there and really challenge Stirling, put them under a lot of pressure, and hopefully we'll see them react to that and see our guys react and get some positive results, and looking for a good stepping stone into that second half of the season, as we believe we're on target to stay in this league, and it's about going out there week on week now and just picking up those wins, points wherever we can through good performances.
We were looking at the table and we were discussing that we always thought that 40 points might be good enough to stay up. Now, Peebles at the halfway stage have got 20, so if they replicate that in the second half, then they should be okay. But then you look at Highland, who are on 18 at the moment, and after this weekend, if Highland beat Gala, Stirling could beat Peebles, all of a sudden Peebles in the relegation zone. Yeah,
It's the free hit for Peebles this weekend, but they'll have seen enough from that video, as he mentioned there. They'll have seen enough from the video of Stirling v Gala to know where they can potentially cause Stirling some problems, but Stirling are a class act, let's not forget about that. So again, it's the thing we continually say this season: if Peebles can get anything from this game, then to me that's a good result. Peebles could do with, I think they will get favours this weekend. I think Dundee will lose, and I think Birmingham will lose at GHA. Peebles could use a wee favour from their near neighbours Gala this weekend, who are travelling to Highland, of course. But there's a lot of rugby still to be played. But Peebles, a bit like Jed, bit like possibly bigger as well, will just spend the next few weeks, probably into the new year, just looking over their shoulder.
National 2 then has 3 games kicking off at 2 o'clock, 1 at 3. Let's start with Berwick at home to Kirkcaldy. Berwick won last week against Stumel in the National League Cup, and Kirkcaldy started their campaign with 4 good, if narrow, wins to top the table for a couple of weeks. Let's listen to what Berwick head coach Paul Pringle has to say.
Coming off the back of a really good result at home to Stumel in the Cup at the weekend, where we showed real kind of grit and determination to grind out a result against what seemed like all odds. We men short the last 10 minutes of the game, but the lads certainly showed everything we were looking for as a coaching team in their behaviours and just that kind of intensity that we were wanting right through the final whistle. So it was a very pleasing result. And then on the back of that, and the week before where we won away to GHK, you know, we're certainly looking to keep that momentum building when we welcome Kirkcaldy down to Scremerston on Saturday. Kirkcaldy had a big physical outfit, you know, very direct. They like to take ball on the front foot and hit up round the sides. So we're expecting it to be a tough match, but it's one we're definitely targeting. In terms of the squad selection, so we're fortunate enough to welcome back Rory Hindhoff and Jordan Jackson this week. Jordan does face a fitness test, but we're certainly very hopeful that he'll pass that, so they'll be back into the squad. Just in preparation for this week, you know, we're quite fortunate to have a tie-up with Kelso, and certainly a good relationship with them. So we took the squad of boys up to Kelso. Between Ek and Nicky and Bruce, you know, they arranged a really good session where we were able to, you know, go through live line-outs, scrums, the backs doing set plays, and then some really kind of high-intensity game stuff at the end. So for me, that was really important, just to expose some of the younger lads who've not been in that training environment, just the intensity and the way the guys approach it. I'm really hoping that starts kind of moving us on to the next level, which is where we aim to be. Certainly for this weekend, you know, that ferocity in the way they train, it should pay dividends this Saturday. I know certainly the pack in terms of line-outs and driving and in the scrummaging learnt a lot, and we'd look to be taking that into this weekend's game. So yeah, we were very pleased to have been able to do that, and for Kelso to give us that opportunity, and hopefully it helped them a little as well. All in all, with all the prep done, really we're just looking forward to getting the game on and hopefully just building on that momentum that I previously mentioned.
Paul Pringle there, the head coach of Berwick, and they're coming into some form, and a home win would certainly push them up the table from that relegation zone, which is at the end of the day what they want to do first and foremost.
You know, 2 down in this division, and Berwick are, you know, towards the foot of the table. So yeah, a win here will do them absolutely no harm at all. It's going to be tricky. Kirkcaldy had a brilliant start to the season, of course, but they've fallen away a wee bit since then. But they'll still be looking, you know, up the table rather than down. And great to see Hindhaw back in the mix. He brings plenty to the equation. Also great to hear about, you know, clubs working together, Berwick and Kelso. That's for the greater good, absolutely, and that's good to hear.
Well, we'll have full commentary of that match, which kicks off at 2 o'clock. Dale Clancy and Stephen Turnbull will be there for us, and with Paul Pringle yet to be convinced about the tackle height laws, I'm sure there'll be an opportunity to have a little chat on air with those two, which should be fascinating. And of course, it gives us both sides of the story, doesn't it?
We said before, it's not on the referees. This, it really, I can't emphasise that, it's not on the referees. It's a directive from above. And yeah, but you're right, it'll be good to hear both sides of the story. And Stephen's a good referee, and he'll be quite articulate in the way he makes his point as well, I would imagine.
Well, other games are Gordonians against Stuart's Melville in a top of the table clash, first against second. Newton Stewart v Preston Lodge in another mouth-watering fixture there. And then there's GHK against Falkirk, that one at 3 o'clock. What about those?
Towards the top of the division, it's tough to call. For me, it's unforeseen. Gordonian Stumel, top of the table clash. Obviously, that's going to be a big game and could go some way to determining who finishes where. And GHK, Falkirk's still going to have something to say about who finishes where this season. And last way, they're further down the table than they'd hoped to be as well. Newton Stewart propping things up. I've got some pretty handy players as we've seen in the inter-district stuff. So yeah, it's got a strange look about it at the table at the moment, and there's a lot of rugby to be played, and again it's another exciting division.
Well, no East League games this week because it's Shield and Bowl weekend, and Ewan Welsh has all the details from the Four Borders teams in action this weekend.
The East League Roundup with Ewan Welsh.
Hello and welcome to another roundup of East League action. Whilst there aren't any league fixtures this weekend, the focus turns to cup games, with 4 local teams competing across the National Shield and East Bowl competitions. Let's start with the National Shield, where we are at the round of 32, and both Langham and Hoyk Harlequins received buys in the first round to get to this stage. Langham hit the road to face Forrester, and they'll be confident of getting the win after defeating the same opponents comfortably at the end of October in a East League 1 game. Previewing this one is Langham's head coach Craig Hislop.
This Saturday we head up to Huntington for a Shield fixture. The home fixture against them 3 weeks ago was a real ding-dong affair, where we managed to pip them in the end. Both of us are sitting equal in the league at second top, so we're expecting a tough battle up at their patch. Squad-wise, only negative really is Stephen Nicol, our experienced number 8, is having a rest with an injury this week, but apart from that, fully gunned. Welcome a captain back after a few weeks off with a ligament damage, so a full squad of 22. Looking forward to Saturday.
Hoyk Harlequins are the other local side in the National Shield, and on Saturday they travel to Huddington, who are the second top of the league above the Quins. Previewing the tough away fixture is captain Liam Graham.
After a heavy defeat a couple of weeks ago to Dunbar, it's left a few boys potentially missing out this week due to injury. We go up to East League 1 side Foresters, who themselves have been struggling in the league this season. But we know the team above us, we really need to step our game up. Hopefully we'll have a good enough squad to go up there. At the minute we're struggling to try and get a front row together, but hopefully we can get the full numbers up. Hopefully going up there to really give them a good game. We know that ourselves that we can play it towards that level. That's what we're aspiring to do in the next few years, and hopefully we've got a squad this week that can show the capabilities of what we can do. Hoping to get a couple of players back that were unavailable at the Dunbar game, go up there and give them a good game.
And finally there's a Borders derby on Saturday as Hoyk travel to Duns for a Pool B match as the East Bowl competition gets underway. And with an update from the Lundin camp is Vice President Kieran Murphy.
Our first game since the first defeat of the season against Eddleston a couple of weeks ago, which was hard to take, but credit to Eddleston, they were a good side and they showed why they're top of the league, and that's just what we have to compete with and bounce back from. Duns this weekend, the last time we played them, they were a good side. They were leading up to 60 minutes and we just came through at the end with a good bit of fight, but they were a strong side, had good carriers and had a good couple of backs that caused us problems, so we're expecting much the same again, and the boys will have to be switched on to get the result again, because it's always tough down there, we always struggle, and that's a credit to Duns. Really, they're always up for the fight when they're at home. In terms of our team, at the start of the week it wasn't looking great for a side. 13 boys unavailable, which isn't great for any game. But thankfully now we've had 2 or 3 obviously come back into availability, and that kind of helps us a little bit, but we're still missing a lot of key players like Ryan Ali, Graham Colville still, Matthew Huggin, quite possibly captain Tom Huggin, Damien Vergatsky, Rory Hume, good pile of forwards there, Eli Hamilton still, and there's a few others as well, and it has been a test this week to get a side, I'm not going to lie, but we have now got up to kind of the 19-20 mark, so it's enough for a squad, and I'm pretty positive that the boys who put it out can get a result down at Duns and can take us forward in this cup. So all eyes lead to Saturday, and it's a good chance for everybody to prove themselves.
Well, that rounds up the East League action this weekend. And once again, all the best to the Border sides in action.
Thank you to Ewan Welsh. That's it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 1:30 tomorrow for 4 hours with Melrose and Edinburgh Accies in the Premiership, our featured game with Robin and also Matty Douglas. And before that, we'll be at Berwick for commentary of Berwick against Kirkcaldy with Dale Clancy and Stephen Turnbull. We'll have all the latest score updates throughout the show, and Friday Rugby Preview will be back in 2 weeks' time after another club rugby break. But for now, from Robin and me, bye for now.
The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.